scramble up your hash browns. It's time for eggs and bacon.
Howdy, yokes, and welcome back to Bacon and Eggs. I'm Tyler Carlin.
And I'm Ethan Edgehill.
And we're going to put in a lot of confusing characters this week.
What?
Exactly. That's exactly what I was saying. This week, we're talking about Fantastic Beasts, Crimes of Grindelwald, with none other than Potter expert and older brother extraordinaire, Jonathan Carlin. And, of course, I'm Tyler Carlin. That's Ethan Edgehill. Jay, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me back, folks.
Welcome
Yokes.
back. We're talking
Yokes.
Potterverse this time.
Yeah, we are.
What did we
I'm
talk
excited
last
to be
time?
back.
Ready Player One.
I think we talked Ready Player
I
One
did.
last time. Yeah.
I know.
got a
So
copy of
that's
that floating
available.
around here too.
The back catalog somewhere you can listen to Ready Player One. That was a fun episode. An okay movie. You know, Jay, we get you for a lot of those. So we're talking about Crimes of Grindelwald. Now, this movie got like a 40% on Rotten Tomatoes last I checked from critics, like a 69 from an audience perspective. I have no idea how it did on Metacritic. And it made exactly what it cost, like $200 million in the opening weekend worldwide, I think. Ethan,
It was like
correct those
243.
numbers for me.
I will.
243.
I think, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, it was not super well-received movie.
It's pretty mediocre
But,
sounding from that.
Yeah.
The critics on Rotten Tomatoes were not crazy about this movie.
Does not sound like it, which is so weird to me because I've seen it twice, and both times when I walked out of the theater, I was like, I loved it. I have a lot of questions, and I feel like they set you up for a lot of stuff that they did not pay off in this movie, but I trust in J.K. Rowling that those things will be paid off, and it's there are some like technical like director decisions or I don't know cinematic decisions that I'm sort of like I don't understand why you did that.
There were definitely some cinematic decisions where I do not understand why they
I don't
did
understand
that.
some things. There's some plot things that I don't understand that I'm like that just seemed dumb. But overall, in general, I walked out and I was like, that was awesome. I loved it. So that's my initial reaction. But I don't know, what was you guys' initial reaction?
I left the theater underwhelmed. I was not absolutely in love with the movie. I mean, I love Potter and I love, I like the Fantastic Beasts world. I wasn't crazy with the direction that they are going with some of the characters that I liked. Like, I didn't like what happened with Queenie's character, and I thought the new Tina thing, the relationship there, sort of, it was like all weird in the first one and then completely off the deep end in this one. I wasn't crazy about a lot of the cinematography, and I wasn't crazy about the sort of convoluted story, but overall I'm happy that there is more Potter for us to discuss and there's more Wizarding World for us to discuss. And I think that, Attack of the Clones wasn't a good movie. This wasn't a good movie, but I still love Star Wars and I still love Harry Potter, and that's sort of where I'm at right now.
I mean, I would agree with you that maybe it's not a good movie in terms of like the cinematic qualities, but in terms of like in addition to the Harry Potter universe, I thought it was great.
And
but
that's
maybe you disagree.
That's what's so strange to me is because like if you can take one thing away from the David Yates Harry Potter movies as well as Fantastic Beasts, the first one is they are like impeccably well made and well shot movies. Mm-hmm. You can criticize the stories and say like, oh well, they left parts out or whatever people do, but like you can't really take a fault with those movies and like the cinematic and directorial decisions made. Whereas this one was kind of the opposite, is it was like all Potter and no movie.
Right. It's almost it feels like a bit, and I've been using The Last Jedi as an example, but maybe Prisoner of Azkaban is a better example where like if you go like cinematically, like Prisoner of Azkaban is like it's beautifully shot. There's like all of the tricks they use to like with the camera and how they position the characters like helps tell the story itself, but then it's like they almost focused so much on like making the movie well that they forgot to tell the story well or something. Like they just left a lot of stuff out. But this is almost the exact opposite to me, where it's like this is like from a fan perspective, I love all the stuff they did with the characters and stuff, but like I'm just like I think the most obvious glaring thing, because you cannot miss it because it is staring at you at 40 feet high, is the extreme close-ups in the Ministry of Magic right at the beginning of the movie.
It doesn't make any sense at all.
I don't get it. Well, should we is it assumed spoilers? Do we need to warn people for spoilers or anything?
Bacon and Eggs is generally a spoiler show.
We did a while where we did spoiler free, but like if you you do spoiler free for this movie, there's really nothing to talk about.
Sure, yeah.
Like, absolutely, we would have no conversation. So yeah, this is going to be a spoiler episode. If you haven't seen Crimes of Grindelwald, go ahead and do it. It is a 1. So on a binary scale of 1 and 0, it is a 1. Like, it may not be the best movie ever made. It's Potter. You have to see it.
Prove that.
Like, Harry Potter continues to, the whole Potterverse continues to be a force for good in the world. Continue to support the franchise so that nothing crazy happens and we get the rest of this series and it doesn't get left off on 30,000 cliffhangers from this movie.
Oh, that's definitely not going to happen. But, yeah.
No, but I mean, it's definitely not doing as well as predicted.
I agree that it is not, which is still surprising to me. But so yeah, you want to like jump in and talk about anything specific?
Yeah, I want to talk about the incredibly close-up shots of the Ministry of Magic.
Yeah, this.
I just want to clear the air on that real quick.
Okay, there's the opening scene where Grindelwald escapes, which I want to come back to, but let's talk about this other scene first. And then they cut to Newt in the Ministry of Magic, and he's like chasing down Pickett, who dropped a button. And let me just say, whoever did the sound work for the button rolling on the carpet, A+.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't know why that was such a big deal, but they nailed it. Someone had like a week to work on that, I think.
I'm really wondering, I want to see the Foley sound design behind it to see what they actually used to get that sound.
Yeah, it was noticeable. It was like noticeably good. But then you cut to this weird conversation between Newt and Leta Lestrange, who is a new character in this movie, and you are like an inch away from their face and they are taking up the whole screen. It's like, why? And my initial thought was, God, I hope they don't do the whole movie like this, which thankfully they didn't. But
yeah, it was just that one scene.
Yeah, it was the two of them, and then I guess when Theseus comes in, he's sort of there too, in that it's Newt and Leta and Theseus, who in this opening scene, for some reason, they have decided to go with the extreme close-up. I don't know, my initial thought was, is this supposed to be like how these characters in particular see each other, or is this like how Newt sees the world, or is this just we needed to do reshoots and we took apart the set already, so we had to get real close and make it weird?
It definitely could be that last part. It definitely could be that last part. But I think the way it's trying to be spun, or at least the way people are spinning it, is that, yeah, that's Newt's perspective. That's kind of what it's like inside Newt's head.
Mm-hmm. I guess, but if they're going to do that, then why isn't it like that for the rest of the movie? Is the issue.
I don't know.
Because it's very hard to watch.
Yeah.
It's very hard to enjoy. I was sitting with Ethan and I was like putting my hand in front of my face, like, how far away is this?
Can I touch Eddie Redmayne right now? Is he
right? Like,
and there's a reason they don't make movies from that perspective.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like they did that one that was like Hardcore Henry or whatever, where it was all first person perspective.
Mm-hmm. And it was like an action movie.
Yeah, and it was like an action movie and it bombed because everybody was like, this is awful. I threw up 8 times.
Yeah, I mean, the extreme close-up, I mean, it's like a tool in the director's, toolkit, but it's typically used to like really focus in on like a soul emotion that they really want to powerfully like convey to the audience, and that's just not what was happening in this scene. It was just like a regular conversation from an inch away, and
right,
it just felt out of place.
The extreme close-up is a Peter Jackson specialty if you go back and watch the original Lord of the Rings movies.
Oh, okay.
It turns
they
out
do a lot of like epic staring into the distance in those movies,
right? And like
the sky is red.
Shots of Gandalf like from his eyeballs or his eyebrows to his like beard.
Yeah,
I know. All I was thinking was about how our dad used to be like, if you're gonna take a picture of somebody, make sure you can see the top of their, like, whatever it is you're framing, make sure you can see the top and bottom of it in the photo.
Right.
And that was immediately what I was thinking of. Was like, you cut Newt's head off, man. We're gonna have to redo the Christmas card.
All right. Okay, so I think we
that
agreed
dead
that
horse.
It was a weird choice.
Just want to clear the air on that real quick.
So the other weird thing about this scene in particular and I think it's one of these things that's hard to imagine when you're creating like a magical world and you're translating it from someone's mind onto screen, but like there's some weird magical inconsistencies happening in this scene that really bothered me, that drew me out of it for a second, because it was like, did you think about that enough? So for example, you see, first of all, there's no one else in the whole ministry apparently except these 3 people in the hallway, but they have a lot of house elves in the movie, and you can like see them cleaning windows that are like 20 feet off the ground, and they floated the chair up, and they're sitting in the chair while it's floating, and then from the floating chair, they are magically wiping a cloth like another 3 feet up. And I'm like, why don't you just float the chair the extra 3 feet? Or else, if you can move the cloth without touching it, why are you in the chair at all? Why aren't you just on the ground doing this? Like,
I will say, yeah, there was a lot of George Lucas prequel moments where it was like, you got a lot of unnecessary magic going on in the background of this movie, where it was like, like, it's just magic for the sake of having it there.
That's sort of what it felt like. It's like, we should add some magic stuff in the background. And it's like, it is the Ministry, so maybe you should have some magic stuff. But like, the magic stuff that you hear about in the books is like, paper airplane leaflet memos going from office to office, or
and they did have the memos being delivered by birds, which I thought was a nice consistency, because in book 5, when Arthur takes Harry to the Ministry, he talks about how they used to use owls and birds, but there was way too many droppings, and that's why they switched to memos. And that was presumably during Arthur's time at the Ministry, so that was a recent development.
I guess so. That's true.
So that was a nice piece of consistency I did notice.
Okay, I'll give you that. I like the statue in the that they describe in the books a lot, that they have the fountain, I guess, in the Ministry. That let you know where you were. That was nice. But let's back up a second to the opening scene, because this is the most the weirdest, magically inconsistent round of things in the whole movie. And I was just like, what's happening here? So the opening of the movie is when Grindelwald escapes.
Right.
And let me ask you guys if you understood how it happened or not.
No, so he's gifted in Transfiguration to the point where he can, without Polyjuice Potion, become someone else, right? Is that what I'm to understand?
Well,
No, I thought it was Polyjuice.
No, in the first one, it's Transfiguration.
Is it?
It is, to get to Percival Graves. I mean, I guess they look similar enough, yeah, but I guess he's convincingly somebody else, correct. But so what's your assumption that happened, though? Like, when does the switch between him and Abernathy take place?
Oh, that I have no idea.
Me neither.
No,
yeah, how long has Abernathy
I was like,
been?
This is a loud, rambunctious set piece, and I appreciate you putting this in here. And I thought it was so funny every time Johnny Depp would appear in a window.
Oh, that was hilarious. He's just like,
it was like he would just he would just slide in or whatever.
Yeah, that was really funny. I liked it. It's so weird that you could consider that like a weird talent of acting. Like, he just sort of pops in and is just like, "Hey guys, what's up?
I've got a jar of dirt."
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. There's another very Johnny or Jack Sparrow moment.
There's one moment where he literally does the whoa.
But yeah, so I'm trying to figure. I've seen it twice, and the second time I was really trying to focus. When does the switch happen? Because what happens is you see Abernathy staring in at Grindelwald, and Madame Pickery, the president, says we had to remove his tongue because he was so persuasive. And you're like, okay. And then they take off in the Thestrals, and you see Abernathy, apparently, with the Elder Wand, standing on the edge, and he apparates to under the carriage, and then inside the carriage, Grindelwald transform. They both transform at the same time. And
see, that's why I was thinking Polyjuice, is because they would wear off at the same time.
That's an interesting thought. Like, if they polyjuiced into each other,
right?
But see, the problem is when Grindelwald later comes into the cabin, he waves his wand and gives Abernathy a tongue back, and it's like,
is that what's going on there? I thought he was giving him a little snake.
No,
tongue.
that very first scene, you can see Grindelwald removing Abernathy's tongue.
When?
It's the first. I noticed something weird happen because it's the first thing that happens in the movie. I think.
I've only seen it once. Staring in. I don't know if that's true.
And there's a weird when you see him staring in the window, there's this weird little flash.
But what? I don't understand why they have to take his tongue out. What's the point of that?
All I know is, just to sort of off topic this real quick, I know that going into this, I wanted Johnny Depp not to be Jack Sparrow. That was my priority. And I think actually he nailed it. But talking about the removal of a tongue immediately took me back to Pirates of the Caribbean.
Ty, we lost you.
And talking about Mr. Cotton. Oh, you lost me?
Yeah, say that again.
Talking about the removal is the last thing we heard.
Okay, so talking about the removal of the tongue took me right back to Pirates of the Caribbean when you're talking to Mr. Cotton, and, he's like, "Oh, he's a mute, sir. He had his tongue removed. They trained the bird to speak for him." And then that's immediately what it took me to. And I just didn't want to think about Pirates of the Caribbean during this movie. Because that's what Johnny Depp is Jack Sparrow. But I thought throughout the film he did redeem himself and was not.
So Jay,
Jack Sparrow.
How do you feel of Johnny Depp as Grindelwald?
So when I first heard the casting, I was just like, why? Because when I first heard it, I just felt like I don't know, you didn't need Johnny Depp for this role. Like,
Right.
It just seemed weird. Like, of all, because he's Australian, right? Is he British even?
I think he's American.
Yeah,
I have no idea where Jack Depp's
I don't
from.
know. Yeah, I don't know what
Is
Johnny
he-
Depp sounds like. He's American. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I have no idea what he sounds like because he has a different voice in every movie. But
Very
yeah.
true. But so, like, I know it was a big point for J.K. Rowling that all of the characters in the original Harry Potter series be, like, from England or, like, from, like, Europe, at least, I guess. And, like, Johnny Depp's not. And so it just seemed like a weird choice there. That being said, having seen the movie, I do think he did a very good job. I thought it was, like, well done. He's very charismatic. Very, like, I wasn't, like, staring at him the whole time like, oh, that's Johnny Depp, you know? Like, I was able to, like, believe it was Grindelwald.
Right, for sure. I would agree with that. And I think it's so interesting because a lot of people were saying in the run-up to this movie, like, if this movie sucks, it's going to be Johnny Depp's fault. And, like, a lot of people thought this movie sucked, and a lot of people loved it, but there are definitely people who thought this movie sucked, but it's not Johnny Depp's fault at all.
No, I think
Like,
he did a pretty good job.
I thought he did I could have watched 2 hours of him making that speech.
Yeah, I thought that speech was awesome.
Very compelling.
Anytime he was on screen as Grindelwald, I was like, okay, this is a good scene.
Yeah.
It is kind of tough to watch because I don't know, maybe I'm a terrible person for this, but like you watch Grindelwald's speech and it's almost like he's not wrong. It's like, why would the magical community, were it not fiction, not run the show?
That is how you're supposed to feel. That is the whole point of Grindelwald. Like, that's what they're getting at.
Well, so it's interesting because the way J.K. Rowling lets people get away with this is by always having the Ministry just be morons. So it's like the Ministry is already wrong. So like there needs to be a solution, and this guy is offering a solution, but he's also wrong. You know, like everyone, like it seems like one of the big points for the Ministry is this whole like Muggle wizard complete separation-ness, which is causing a lot of strife. Like that's, you know, obviously the huge Queenie Jacob plot line. And then I guess there's just sort of like some anti-government beliefs floating around through the wizarding community where, you know, Dumbledore tells Theseus, don't do anything if you go to a rally. Like, you're going to walk right into his trap. And sure enough, like, he's able to get someone to provoke someone at the Ministry, and they literally kill someone on the spot. And then he's like, ha, see? Everyone leave, scatter, tell everyone what just happened. They're awful. And it's just like, that was very effective. He also has his little skull bong thing there. And, you know, and he has like the World War II imagery pop up, and you're like, whoa, that is powerful stuff. Especially like in the wake of World War I, which, you know, he's like, look, see, this is what Muggles are going to do to each other. This is what they're going to do to us if we don't get in control right now. And so it's like, it's really powerful, especially if you just lived through another, like, the First World War. So, he does a good job of it.
And I definitely saw that coming, like, even from before these movies started, and just from the sheer fact that the Grindelwald defeat happened in 1945, I was like, there's got to be some kind of World War II connection here.
Yeah, well, he's basically supposed to be written, I think he's been described by even J.K. Rowling as basically like Wizard Hitler.
Yeah.
Who, again, was, you know, in his own right, an extremely effective orator.
Yeah, and that was a situation where, like, the German government was wrong, and he had a solution.
Also wrong.
And that's
way worse.
And that's the difference between Grindelwald and Voldemort. Is like Voldemort is pure evil.
Right.
No motivation other than that he's just evil.
He's like the seductive power of the dark side. He's Darth Vader. Like,
right. Yeah.
And here we have Sheev Palpatine.
Yeah, we have
got a
Grindelwald
grand
who,
plan.
The Senate.
Like, I don't think under any circumstances Voldemort thinks that he's the good guy. But like Grindelwald thinks that he's the good guy.
Yeah.
He doesn't kill the baby.
Well, he lets it happen.
Well,
he's pretty okay with
it.
it. They walk in and just murder everyone in that house. I mean, yeah.
And that's why he's more effective.
A lot of the people. Oh, the other. Sorry, I just thought of the other really Johnny Depp thing, or the very Jack Sparrow thing, is when he saves the guy at the beginning from dying on impact with the water. I was kind of like, why did he do that? But then like the immediate thought that came to my mind was from Jack Sparrow, where he's like, well, if there's no survivors, where do the stories come?
Right.
You know, it's like, yeah.
It's like, yeah, that dude's got to go back to the Ministry and be like, Grindelwald, let me live.
Right. Another key difference between Voldemort, where Voldemort is like, I do not want anyone to know I'm back, when Grindelwald is like, sound of the horn, I have escaped these morons. They can't hold me. I'm so powerful and awesome.
I'm going to drape Paris in black sheets.
Yes.
Yeah.
That scene is another one where I feel like it is not clear what it's like. There's this big statute of secrecy thing, and then you see these black sheets, and you're like, can the Muggles just not see them? But that is the case. They can't see them, but I don't think they demonstrate that very well.
That was the point where I lost the movie.
Yeah.
Like, that was definitely the point. I think I need to see it again and just focus on what's going on, because that was the point where I was like, okay, everything from here on out is like a plot point, but none of these things connect. Because then they just...
Yeah, I definitely had no idea what was going on at that point.
They act like it's not happening, and they go to the Ministry, and then they're like, we're just going to walk right into Lestrange's vault. This isn't going to be weird at all. No chance.
Yeah, there's some odd things. So it was a little bit cleared up to me. I've got the Crimes of Grindelwald screenplay here, and I was reading through it yesterday and it describes in much greater detail what's happening. It's like giant black cloths that are shown to be invisible to the Muggles drape over Paris. Wizards are seen looking up, gasping, while Muggles walk past them unaware. And then, like, they do a bad job of it in the movie. Apparently what's supposed to happen is if you're a wizard, if you touch the cloth, it'll show you where to go. Whereas, like, Queenie sort of like walks up and there's already a raven there, and so then she touches it and it moves, but like it was written that she was supposed to touch it, and that's supposed to make it appear. So you're supposed to, that's how everyone knows where to go, is by touching it. But that wasn't clear in the movie, I didn't think. There's like just bad storytelling, visual storytelling.
Yeah, that was my whole thing. Is like that's where it kind of just started being about the details, and like the whole thing where they did the family tree, and then Jacob opens that door, and Newt's just like, it's all been a trap. Like, what does that even mean?
Oh my gosh! Thank you for bringing that line up. They come in, they walk into the big amphitheater at the end, ready for the rally. And like Tina says it's a trap, and Newt confirms. He's like, the tree Tina, or the tree Queenie, it's all been bait. And it's like, what do you mean? At that point they don't even know Queenie is there,
right?
Bait for who? Like Credence?
Yeah, that's my thing. Is like nothing that happens from there on out really makes sense.
Yeah,
it's like all of the individual scenes work, but they don't work together as a. It's just kind of a lack of storytelling and more of like just a plot detailing. Like,
yeah, it's like there's one. I feel like there's a very key scene that's missing, because now I'm sorry I'm referencing a lot of books, but I feel like it's almost been necessary to try to understand it. I've got a different book here called The Archive of Magic, the Film Wizardry of the Crimes of Grindelwald, and in there it talks about a scene where Grindelwald is talking to his followers and outlines his plan to kidnap Queenie and kill somebody else, and there's like a 3-part plan, and it's like, now wait a minute.
That scene just
I don't
isn't
remember
there.
that scene.
Yeah.
And it was like, I feel like there's a scene, missing, where Queenie is revealed to Newt and Tina, and then also Grindelwald tells his people what's up. And like they just left that out, and it's just confusing now. So I'm hoping maybe there's like a Lord of the Rings extended version of this movie that we're gonna get or something. But
God, I hope it would improve it.
Yeah, I feel
I don't want to sit through a longer version of this that's not any better.
It would definitely improve it. I mean, I would think you'd think in those regards. But
Well, I will say, just as a was that the Titanic?
Yes.
What?
Yeah,
The
the
ship.
ship they were on. That's got to be the Titanic.
Oh,
Because Credence.
And where is Lita Lestrange going? Doesn't she have Hogwarts next year?
She's going to America with the elf.
With the elf. But I guess that's an interesting question, that she is going to America, but then they survive, and so she just comes back to England.
And goes to Hogwarts.
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions that I have around Lita Lestrange, because obviously she's supposed to have died at the end, right?
Yes, that's my interpretation.
How does Rodolphus get born?
Oh, there's other Lestranges. If you see the tree, so you have the Corvus line off to the right, and then there's like the Cyril line off to the left.
Oh, okay. It looked like that just ended, and I was like, we have a whole Lestrange family that just isn't there.
Yeah, so basically you would have Corvus 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then so Corvus the First then had a brother, Cyril Lestrange, and he also had a line of Cyril 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 as well on the other side.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So one of them would have to be Rodolphus's father.
Yes. Yeah. Pretty much. much.
Okay.
That's where we're at. So another the Titanic sank in 1912, by the way, so that can't be the ship.
Sure it can.
No, it can't.
How old
Oh,
is
wait,
Credence?
because it's back in time. You're right.
Yeah, because that was how old is Credence? Could be like 16, right?
Credence is 20. He's born in 19... No, you're right. This still can't work because Credence was 1904.
Was he?
When
Okay.
born. Yeah.
Okay.
So
wait, so Credence is... No, because Credence can't be 23.
Why not?
Because he was like a child living with the second Salemers.
That's fine. He can be there for like 20 years.
I guess.
Yeah.
I feel like what Rowling is doing here, because there's a few points, and just to sort of go in a different direction, there's a few points that break the original canon that I think are actually forgivable. Like I really don't think it's a huge problem, because it's just the big one that people keep talking about is McGonagall.
No, we got that one figured out. Don't you worry about that.
Do you?
That's going to be a video.
Is that a future video?
Soon. Yeah, but we can talk about it anyway. We can talk about why it absolutely doesn't make sense, and then yeah.
Well, it doesn't have to make sense, because the way I see it is, I mean, there's a few explanations I'm looking at. You've got the Potter books, which to me are like, the direct comparison would be like the Gospels, right? Like that's eternal truth for Harry Potter universe.
Right.
And then you've got Pottermore, which is like Paul's letters, it came after the original books, but it's not gospel, but it's New Testament. And then you've got the Fantastic Beasts stories, which I think are supposed to lead into the Potter stories, but I don't think they have to do it perfectly. And I don't think Paul's letters have to be perfect. Pottermore doesn't have to be perfect. And for people to believe it and for it to be believable. And what we're looking at here is a type of mythology, right? It's explaining events. Grindelwald is going to have some major cause to World War II. So it's explaining events that happened in Earth's history in a mystical and magical way. In the same way that, Rome was founded by Romulus and Remus, raised by wolves. You've got the same sort of thing going on here, where if you use characters and you pick and choose them and sort of place them in ways where they would sort of make sense, I think you've still got something that works. And you see a lot of this with like Norse mythology, where like there's no perfect timeline with Norse mythology. Loki sometimes is a bad guy, sometimes a good guy. Thor is sometimes a child and sometimes an adult. Mythology doesn't have to work as long as it effectively tells a story to explain an event.
Well,
right, but this isn't mythology.
Yeah, I know I see what you're getting at, but I do think it will fit perfectly. I mean, I think J.K. Rowling has this whole world in her head, and she's putting it out there for you, and it's not gonna work out incorrectly, especially with something like McGonagall.
Wait, so I can cut it out, but how do you fit this in there? Like,
well, let's talk about McGonagall. So when we visit Dumbledore at Hogwarts, which is all the nostalgic feels when we go to Hogwarts, like, oh my god, we're back. That's so cool. And the great shot over the mountain. I love that. We go inside and they're teaching Defense Against the Dark Arts, and the Ministry comes in and Professor McGonagall shows up and he's like, oh, Professor McGonagall, take these children away or whatever. And so we see her there, and then we also see her in the past a little bit further when Newt and Leda are students. So we see her twice. And the question is, like, when you see it, you're just excited. You're like, oh, McGonagall, yay! And it's just like a little bit of fan service. Like, she didn't really make any impact or anything. That's cool. But then when you go back and start looking at some stuff, it totally doesn't make sense that she should be there, because really she shouldn't even be born yet.
Right.
Yeah. So in Order of the Phoenix, she is interviewed by Dolores Umbridge, and she asks her, how long have you been working here? And she says 39 years this December, and which is weird. Who gets hired in December at a school? But anyway, if you do the math on that, I think that happens in like 1996, and this takes you back to like 1957, if I'm just remembering the numbers off the top of my head. And then you can go on Pottermore, and there's these ebooks you can download written by J.K. Rowling, and one of them is like heroism, hardship, and something. And there's a whole like chapter. It's like the history of some characters you didn't get the history of, and one of them's McGonagall. And you learned that when she graduated from Hogwarts, she spent 2 years at the Ministry, and then she started working at Hogwarts. So that means she graduated in 1955, which means she was born 17 years earlier in like the 1930s, which is 10 years after the start of this movie. So it's like, obviously you're not even born yet. And then you also want to like think, oh, well, certainly it must just be her mother or like an aunt or something. But also neither of those things can be true at all. Her mother was, first of all, her name was Isabel Ross, and she never worked. She did go to Hogwarts, and she married a Muggle reverend Robert McGonagall. And she hid her magic from him all the way up until Minerva was born. And then Minerva started showing signs of magic, and she finally had to tell him, what's up? Why is our child acting so weird? But so she hid her magic, and they only lived on the Reverend's salary for the entire time they were married. So she didn't have a job, first of all, so it can't be her. And she wouldn't have the same last name, and she was hiding her magic. So, like, lose on that. And then the Reverend was Muggle-born, and so, and he didn't know about magic at all until his wife told him. And, like, so if it was, like, his sister or something, then certainly he already would have known about magic. So really can't be anyone except Minerva herself. And if it is someone else and it's not her mother or an aunt or something, then it's like, then what was even the point? Why you use any other name and it doesn't matter? So basically it has to be her, and yet she shouldn't be born yet, and yet she's like 20. So, or like looks like to be about mid-20s or so. So our working theory is that there is some sort of time turnerness at play, which no one likes to hear, but McGonagall is the one who gets the time turner for Hermione, so like that could suggest she had some experience with it. And there's also this intimate conversation she had with Dumbledore about when she found out like her true love from her hometown, who was also Muggle-born, got married to another woman because she turned him down, and this was right when she got hired at Hogwarts. And that is, I think, the moment when she decided to go back and help Dumbledore, because of course Dumbledore's argument would be, help me go fight Grindelwald in the past, because he would make it so that stuff like that could never happen. And you know, I don't know, that was a lot of talking. Thank you for listening.
That's the last part, actually. That's a pretty good thing you got going on there.
Yeah, the other part is that she does eventually marry this guy named Elphias Urquhart, I think, something like that. And it like mentions that like he's a significantly older man, which seems like weird for McGonagall. But if she went back in time and like basically lived a section of her life twice, then on paper Urquhart would be a significantly older man, but like in real life they would actually pretty much be the same age, kind of thing. So there's that too. Anyway, that's sort of my explanation that I've been working on.
So, I mean, the only other thing, there was another fanservice moment in that same scene where it was like McLagan's great grandfather. Why not make that like a Weasley or a what's another name? Neville's grandmother or something.
Man, your guess is as good as mine. Why, of all characters, they felt the need to have a McLagan Easter egg for the guy who has a crush on Hermione in the 5th book to make Ron jealous. Or
Sixth
book, sorry. Yeah.
And that was
what a random one.
That was the wild thing for me about the McGonagall thing, is I had just listened to that part in Order of the Phoenix that day.
Yeah.
When she did the interview and was like, I've been teaching for 39 years. And then she showed up in Crimes of Grindelwald, and I was like, hang on.
Now, wait a minute. I've done some math numbers here.
Yeah. I was immediately... And we got to watch that scene 3 times because...
Oh, yeah, I heard you had trouble in the theater.
Yeah, the movie kept breaking. So we watched that scene 3 times.
Wow.
Cool, man. There were some bad reshoots for that particular scene.
I cannot explain to you how awkward that one cut is. When it goes from, like, Grindelwald and Dumbledore looking at each other in, like, the vision things to just, like, hard cut to Dumbledore.
Okay, so I'm glad you bring up the Mirror of Erised. Well, maybe you're not talking. Those are 2 different moments, but the Mirror of Erised.
The Mirror of Erised was a red herring in the previews.
How so?
Well, he doesn't see Grindelwald's head in the Mirror of Erised.
In the previews?
He does in the previews. He doesn't in the movie.
Yeah, he sees them like make the Blood Pact and stuff.
Yeah, but in the preview, it's just like a shot of his head.
Well, I think that was in the movie.
No.
Well, whatever. Not the point.
Well, they're also not just going to give away the Blood Pact thing in the preview.
Okay.
They did that because they're lovers,
right? A weird thing. Well, definitely Dumbledore was in love with Grindelwald. I think it was mostly a one-way street, but I think Grindelwald absolutely knew this about Dumbledore and is just manipulating him. Like
I thought that was why Grindelwald was fighting for what he wanted. The whole commentary is about, like, you know, the political commentary behind it is reflective of the personal struggles between Grindelwald and Dumbledore, where it's like, the no-mages can't be with the wizards because, you know, the gays can't be together, or whatever the commentary was, which I thought was a weird direction for it to go.
I don't think that was the commentary.
But, I don't know, I thought, based on the little, like the way that they were framed, the like, as far as staging goes and mise-en-scène, like, they're facing each other. They're not focused on anything but the 2 of each other. And I figured that meant that they were lovers.
Well, I don't think they were lovers. I think they were just like very close. But the way I think I very much think that Dumbledore was in love with Grindelwald, and Grindelwald was very much using that to his advantage over him. But so the weird thing about the Blood Pact, though, is that you learn at the end of the movie that it is stopping Grindelwald or Dumbledore from fighting Grindelwald, right? Is that your takeaway?
Yes.
Like we made a
that's
Blood
why
Pact.
he can't face Grindelwald.
Right. Except, here's the problem, is that we know that after the three-way duel between Dumbledore and Grindelwald and Aberforth, where Ariana died, that Dumbledore doesn't see Grindelwald again until the duel of 1945, like the big one, right? And like, so the question is, when did they make this Blood Pact? Because certainly they didn't get together after that duel and be like, let's make a Blood Pact together. But if they made it before that duel, then they shouldn't have been able to fight that duel. You know what I mean?
Unless Dumbledore was fighting on Grindelwald's side.
Or the Blood Pact had some effect on the magic Dumbledore tried to use on Grindelwald, and that's what hurt Ariana.
Oh, that's interesting. So that's okay. So yeah, I've thought that too. Those are both cool explanations. Like I guess Dumbledore, maybe it's really more like Aberforth and Grindelwald are dueling, and Dumbledore is just like defense on both sides or something.
Yeah, or Dumbledore is just like, don't hurt my brother, and he tries to hurt Grindelwald, and the Blood Pact does not allow him to hurt Grindelwald.
Sure, that could be
because that's magic we know very little about.
Yeah, that's the thing. Blood Pact, very mysterious. Very mysterious, all the same. But
now Dumbledore has the Blood Pact because apparently that's an object now.
Right.
Which I thought was an interesting choice. Is like, and Newt's just like, "Can you destroy it?" And he's like, "I do not know."
He says maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. But pacts and vows and promises all come in weird forms in Harry Potter.
Yes.
I also want to talk about, when we're talking about powers and unknown magic. Now, Jay, this was my interpretation of the reason Grindelwald didn't kill the baby. So I thought when he didn't do it, it was because it was showing us that Grindelwald was smarter than Voldemort, because Voldemort tried to kill the baby after a mother died protecting it, and that's what killed Voldemort. And I thought that was saying Grindelwald wouldn't make such a rudimentary mistake.
Oh, that's
that there's a chance that if he tried to kill the baby, it would backfire.
That's interesting. That is interesting. I assume these people were muggles, so I don't think they could cast that kind of magic anyway.
Well, I mean, I don't know. That was my interpretation, because killing a baby is such like a there was very clearly a parallel between Harry and Voldemort and Grindelwald and whoever this baby was. At least between Grindelwald and Voldemort. Like walk into a room and there's a baby after you just killed its family.
Sure. That is interesting. I guess the difference, I mean, it could be him just being cautious. The obvious difference is so it's like everyone's commentary about Lily Potter is just always like, what are you telling me? No mother has ever died to save their baby before? And it's like, yeah, that doesn't totally add up. But the difference is that Lily didn't have to die. I think it's like she chooses to die for Harry, like even though it won't matter.
Right, like they could have just handed over Harry.
Right, like Voldemort gives her the chance. He's like, I don't need to kill you. He's like, just step aside, let me kill the baby. And she's like, no, absolutely not. And then he's like, okay, dead. Now that was stupid because now you're dead, and also I'm still gonna kill your baby. Except, so because she chooses to die for him, that's what causes the spell. Which
that and how many people are just going around Avada Kedavraing babies? Like
that's true.
How many wizard babies have been murdered that way? Like really?
Very true. But I think the point is that this kind of love, this sort of spell isn't just unique to protecting babies. It should theoretically protect anyone who specifically died when they didn't need to save someone else. Which brings me to Little Lestrange in this movie. We already talked a little bit about how she died. So the interesting thing is, right before she dies, she turns around. Newt and Theseus are both standing there, and she says, I love you, right? And so, first of all, who do you guys think she's talking to?
Newt.
I have no idea, because I was not given a convincing reason that she loves Theseus at all.
Newt.
In the entire
She's talking
movie.
about Newt.
Yeah,
she's absolutely talking about Newt.
It seems pretty obvious she's talking about Newt. But this is one scene in particular where I thought they did a really good job with the camera work. Where they cut to Newt, he's staring down at Lita. They cut to her, she's staring back at what you think is him. She says, I love you. And then they cut back to Theseus, who's also staring directly at Lita. And you're like, oh, don't know who she was talking to, and then she dies. So my question is, like, why even have her say this at all? Like, there's got to be some ramification to this, you know? Like, it has to come back into play. So my thought is that it's possible Lita has now, like, sacrificed herself for either Theseus or Newt in the same way Lily died for Harry. Now, obviously, Newt will never be, like, protected in the same way, like, from Avada Kedavra in the same way Harry does, because Harry's no one else has ever survived it. But that doesn't mean it might not offer him some sort of protection from Grindelwald in some similar way. I don't know what that is, but that's another smaller theory I have about it, that like the sacrificial love spell has been cast.
Man, this movie's just not about Newt, is it?
There's a lot happening in this movie.
We've talked about it for about 50 minutes now.
Yeah, we haven't talked about Newt. We haven't talked about Credence. We haven't talked about Dumbledore very much.
Okay, we haven't even said the word Nagini.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
What a disappointment.
Nagini. Like, having seen the movie now and having seen what they did with the marketing, it just feels like they included Nagini for the marketing, right? Like, she does nothing. Absolutely. She is meaningless in this movie. Like, they set her up. Maybe she'll be a much bigger deal later on. We know eventually she's a huge deal, but man, what a letdown. Like, of the biggest sorts. But the same with Nicholas Flamel. It was like, what was the point of you, dude? Like, even you showing up at that battle at the end, form a perimeter. Like, what, did you think they couldn't have figured that out? Yeah, I thought Nicholas Flamel was kind of boring. He has his little magic book where he talks to somebody who I have now learned is a professor at Ilvermorny. But that's not obvious when you watch it. That's another thing I had to, like, go look up in the screenplay.
Wait, who is this?
It's like when Nicholas Flamel is in his house. Yeah. He opens some book and, like, talks to a portrait of a woman. And
he opens it up and I was like, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I'm a bad Potter fan.
Right. No one knows who it was. You can't read the name clearly, and even if you could make out all the words, wouldn't help. She's just a professor at Ilvermorny. And basically earlier when Travers was talking to Dumbledore, he's like, we know you've been setting up contacts all over the world or whatever. This is supposed to be, I think, another one of those contacts. Like, her, Nicholas, and Newt, and, just another one of those. But it's so not obvious. It's not clear at all.
There were numerous times during this movie where I asked, who is that?
Right.
Like, the guy, and I don't even know if this ever ended up being addressed or if I'm just dumb, but, like, the guy that walks in when Newt's meeting with the Ministry and it's just like, I guess I've got the job then.
Oh, yeah, Grimson?
Who is that guy?
Yeah, right. Again, that's a great question. You're like, he's just, like, you can tell Newt doesn't like him.
Newt doesn't like him. They have some kind of history.
They have some sort of beef, yeah, and you don't know
he's
why.
He's a loose cannon Auror who's got a.
He's apparently a beast hunter, essentially, and that's why Newt doesn't like him. But again, not clear.
Well, and that's like 3 characters in 30 seconds that we've been improperly introduced to.
Right, exactly. It's like Newt, they like offer the job to Newt, and this guy's like, I guess I have the job. And you're like, these were your own, like, why? Just because that one guy that they wanted to get the job said no, why are you the next option? Because they obviously don't want you to do it either. Like,
right.
Come on.
Basically what happens to me when that happens is that I just get an email that says, I'm sorry, we decided not to fill the position.
Yeah.
Like,
also, and he's just, like, allowed to sit in on Newt's interview at the same time, too. It's like,
right.
What do you do? What? I don't. Okay. And then he's not. And it's like he acts like he accepts the job for the Ministry, but then it's later revealed that he's working for Grindelwald. So it's like, why did you need to get the job from the Ministry? Couldn't you have just done this on Grindelwald's orders anyway? Because all he does is then deliver that note to Credence for him to break out of the circus and go to the bird market, and then he, like, kills the elf woman, and that's pretty much it. But also he forms the most protective barrier I've ever seen.
He also... Well, that's another character. I don't know who the elf woman is.
She was Corvus, like, Lita's father's servant.
Yeah, she was the woman that had Credence adopted.
I guess.
She was the person on Credence's adoption papers. That one was pretty clearly laid out.
Yeah. They explained to her.
Why does she need to be an elf?
She doesn't. She just is.
I think the reason they made her an elf was so that when
She's
they
half
pulled
elf.
back the curtain to... Yeah. I think the reason they did that, though, is so that when they pulled back the curtain, you would immediately know this is not who Credence was looking for. Like, she's the owner of the name of the person he's looking for,
but she's not the mother.
Isn't his mother. Yeah, I think that's what you're supposed to take away from that. Which again is more like we decided this character's half elf specifically so that reveal will work the way we want it to. So Tyler, you said you didn't like the Queenie plot, that she switched sides.
I just wasn't satisfied by it. I just felt like Queenie was such an
I actually really did
like
like
the
that.
first one. And
I liked it. I was felt pretty bold on my part. I was like,
sorry, Ty, I think you broke up there and we just talked over you.
No, you didn't. I stopped.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know. It just felt like it was a little bit forced. Like, I get why. Like, she was obviously blinded by love, and she was, willing to go to immense lengths to blind Kowalski with that as well. And she's got that. What's it called? Legilimens?
Legilimens, yeah.
Yeah, where, it's kind of like it's like partial tongue, it kind of lends itself to the dark arts, like Voldemort was one, and I guess that's what we're supposed to think old boy Grindelwald is, because him and Mordecai, or whatever the dude's name is, have their little unspoken conversation in that first scene.
Abernathy? Mordecai.
Almost.
That's another Johnny Depp role. Right?
That is another Johnny Depp role, yes.
Yeah. Abernathy. I don't know who that guy is either, as long as we're talking about characters I can't identify.
Abernathy was actually in the first movie.
Yeah.
He's the one who, like, Queenie walks up to and, like, reads his mind and is like, oh, he's having an affair with that woman or something. And, like, she's like, let me confund this nomad, please. And then she, like, blackmails him by being all pretty and cute and stuff. I don't know.
But yeah, I liked the Queenie storyline. I get it. Like, all she cares about is Jacob. Like, she's in love with Jacob.
Right.
She wants to find a way to be married to Jacob. And Grindelwald is offering an option for that.
Right.
Yeah, but that wasn't interesting when Anakin Skywalker did it, and it's not interesting when Queenie does it.
I think that's not
I think it is interesting when
comparison.
Queenie does it, because Queenie's not the chosen one in the same way Anakin was. Like, when Queenie does it, like, to me, like, it speaks more to Grindelwald's character than to her character, I think. It's like in the first movie, Queenie is like the most pleasant, nicest, prissy, like, cutesy girl ever. And here she is, one movie later, like, joining the dark side. Like, because that, like, it's supposed to represent to me how persuasive and charismatic Grindelwald's message is. Like, even Queenie can be seduced by it, was sort of my thought.
Right, it would be like if Padme was seduced by the dark side.
Sure, right.
Right. Our new empire. All right, let's go.
Yay, let's do
This
it.
sounds great. I love it. Yeah.
Your new empire?
Oh, man. And then Ty, you said you didn't like the Newt and Tina relationship.
I just felt like no. Listen. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. Ship Newt and Tina.
Toot, as they're called, Team Toot.
I ship Toot. But
I thought it was Nutina.
It's Toot.
Toot.
It's
Okay.
Toot.
I like that a lot better.
I'm
anyway.
game. I just felt like at the end of the first one, and maybe I'm just misremembering it. I felt like at the end of the first one, it wasn't setting us up for the state that Newt is in at the beginning of this one, where he's like, I think of salamanders when I'm with her, and my whole brain goes to mush. And then, like, the rest of the movie's about Newt's other relevant love life. I don't know. It seemed a little forced.
I didn't hate the Toot thing, but I also kind of felt like you could have made this entire movie without Tina being in it, and it would not have changed anything.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it could have easily been like Newt hunting down an interesting animal in Paris
instead of Tina.
Right, and that Dumbledore told him was with this other guy.
That is an interesting thought. For one, the only thing I didn't really like about Tina or the whole Newt Tina relationship in this movie is that, like, they set you up in the first movie like, oh, they're so cute and awkward together, like, oh, I love it, I can relate so hard. And then you cut to this movie and you sort of, like, you have to pick up these throwaway lines that, like, they mutter under their breath, like that they've been exchanging letters for a long time and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden it's like, it seems like forced, like, plot inconvenience that, oh, there just happened to, like, if it weren't for this one news story getting a misprint, there would be no problem at all. And it's just like, none of the characters had any control over that. It's just happened. And now, like, all of the work they've done has been undone off screen. And so now, like, Newt's just trying to repair this the whole movie, which is annoying to me because it's just like this one little tiny mishap is just causing all these problems. I don't know.
I know, Elsa, just tell your sister you have ice powers.
Exactly. It's just like like maybe send him a postcard like, oh, thought
Did
we
you
were
see
kind
that? How
of
funny
a
is
thing.
this?
Yeah, like Newt. Yeah, maybe like
Right, she listens to a tabloid. Like, it gets mad about it.
But that's the thing about the Wizarding World, is that they are, and this is true throughout the 7 Potter books, is that they are, like, consistently, unbelievably misinformed by the wizard media.
Right. That's a huge theme in there. Like, J.K. Rowling obviously has a lot to say about news media.
Well, and that's the problem, is, like, their single source media is, like, they only listen to the Prophet. It's not like they have
one newspaper.
They have the Prophet and CNN. It's like they just have the Prophet.
Yeah, and the Prophet listens to the Ministry, and it's like, okay,
the Prophet,
that's not how news works. That's a
I think
very
she's
dangerous situation.
Riffing on the BBC.
The head of the Prophet goes in there every day, and it's just like, how can we be corrupt today?
Yeah.
Right. Rita!
It's basically what it's like. But let me just say that my favorite scene in the whole movie is hands down the salamander scene, where Newt is just like, I'm not supposed to say. And he's like struggling so hard not to say the word salamander.
Yeah, because Jacob's just like, don't say salamanders. You can't talk about salamanders.
And he's just like, he's like, oh my God, I love it. I think Eddie Redmayne and Catherine Waterston are amazing on the screen together, is my takeaway.
Yeah, they do have wonderful chemistry.
Do.
There's no doubt about that.
And then, like, what I love about Tina's character is that she has so obviously read Fantastic Beasts and, like, Newt's book, like, a lot. Like, she has, like, memorized the book, essentially. Like, you know, he's describing what these eyes look like, and there's, like, you know he's thinking salamander because of what he told Jacob. But, like, you don't, like, the only way Tina knows what he's talking about is if she's read the book, and she obviously has. And then she also does, like, the thing with the Zou later to get it back in the case, and it's just like, she's read the book, she loves, it's because she loves him. It's like, she loves him. I don't know, I'm a big fan of Newt and Tina. I think they're very fun.
And that's definitely the thing, is, like, this movie was great when they let Grindelwald be Grindelwald, and this movie was also great when they let Newt be Newt, but there wasn't a whole lot of letting Newt be Newt.
Man, that is very well put.
He has a caretaker.
Like Newt, in the Newt lines, even, like, when he has his Newtisms, like, when they're like, why do you want to travel abroad? And he's like, because I want to travel abroad.
It's like, because I enjoy traveling internationally.
Yeah.
Yeah, his opening scene when they're like, you destroyed half of New York. And he's like, that's actually false on multiple accounts.
Yeah. And he just doesn't, he doesn't get it. He doesn't understand how the government works. He doesn't want anything to do with the government. He just wants people to leave him alone.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to take sides.
Take care of my animals, yo.
Right. He wants to write a book about animals. Like, that's it.
I will say this movie was lacking both in the beasts and crimes department.
Yeah, so for a movie called The Crimes of Grindelwald, it's like...
Yeah, he jaywalked.
He exercised free speech.
Yeah, he escaped from prison. Okay, that's one. And then he, sends his little acolytes to kill the people in the house. Not great, but...
technically not his crime.
Not him. It's again. It's like they're
but he escaped from prison in America, and, like, clearly America doesn't have, extradition to France because they can't do anything. Even the Aurors are like, we can't just go after him. Speaking isn't a crime.
Let's revisit that opening scene again one more time, because I didn't get to bring this up, and I think it's so stupid. Why? What? Okay, what is the plan if Grindelwald doesn't escape? If everything just goes the way they want it to? It's like, hey, it's a thunderstormy night. This seems like a good night. Like, why are you doing it in these conditions at all? Why aren't you just waiting until a sunny day? And, like,
nobody can see Thestrals.
They're taking him to France? Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Is the plan you're going to ride in that carriage from New York to London? Like, the Thestrals are going to go across the Atlantic Ocean with the four guys on the broomsticks behind you also going to follow you across the Atlantic Ocean? Is this the plan? Like, this was doomed. Of course this failed. Why
didn't you just throw a port key at him?
Yeah, exactly. Where isn't there a port key? They even use that later to go to different countries. Ugh. Anyway.
Yeah, but they can't take a port key across the Atlantic Ocean.
Why not?
Because they can't. It's too far.
You don't know that. That's the point of port keys, that they go further than apparition.
Right, but not that far.
I don't know that we know that.
Yes, they do, because everybody was coming in internationally for the Quidditch World Cup.
Exactly. Oh, well played. Point Tyler.
You might be right there. But they talk about Dumbledore having to fly the Thestrals when he takes long journeys.
Because Dumbledore doesn't like to apparate. He's a professional Quidditch player.
That's right.
And he flies a Thestral, not a broom, when he goes abroad.
We'll see about that.
I want professional Quidditch. Thank you for bringing this up. I want, like, Newt and Jacob go to a Holyhead Harpies game.
Oh, that'd be great if we could go to a Quidditch game.
I want 5 minutes of professional Quidditch out of this series.
Yeah. Where's my Quidditch World Cup? Come on now.
I'm not even worried about the World Cup. It doesn't have.
Quidditch
it can
World
be a
Cup,
club
Jay.
game. It can be a club game. I don't care. I just want some professional.
Here's the
Quidditch.
truth about the Quidditch World Cup is that if you were going to leave in the Quidditch World Cup and then cut out the things you did later on in that movie, you would have made a criminal film. And you would have made a very long film.
Look, if you'd included the Quidditch World Cup,
I would take 5
you would have
extra
at least
minutes.
had a few entertaining minutes.
You didn't like 4?
No, I didn't like 4.
I'll tell
Which
you.
is a bummer because it's like one of my favorite of the books.
I'll tell you. I spent a long time hating on movie 6. And there's a lot wrong with movie 6, but there's also, it's a pretty good movie.
Like the 4th one, it's just like the things they change. And the whole like, did you put your name on? It's like, oh my god. And it's like, why is Durmstrang all dudes and Beauxbaton all girls? It's like that's not.
There's no men in France, Jay.
Apparently. It's just, it makes me hurt.
Right.
Also, the Triwizard Cup is just the world's worst spectator sport ever.
The dragon one was cool. The second part
Also,
takes place under a lake. The third part takes place in a maze.
Yeah. Also, the dragon scene, first of all, you could have showed us the other contestants fighting the dragons. That would have been awesome. Second of all, Harry fights the dragon in the arena. They don't have to have this weird, like, CGI dragon fight on the castle.
Jay, how are you going to make a roller coaster if they don't do that?
You could still just make a roller coaster.
But that's the thing, though, is like you can't show the other contestants fighting because the movies try their best to stick to the book's perspective, which is the third-person limited perspective of Harry, and he doesn't see the other people fight.
I know he doesn't, but like if you're gonna add
I'm on
in
board.
stuff that
I get what
wanted,
you're saying. I get what you're saying.
And then they take out all of the obstacles in the maze and just have like wavy hedges. Oh, I hate the hedges so much. I like, where's my Sphinx? Where's my golden mist?
Where's
Where
my
are the
blast-ended
blast-ended
Scroots?
My God.
Ugh. I just wanted an on-screen representation of a Blasted Scroot. I wanted to confirm what it looks like in my head.
It's like a giant scorpion, basically, right?
Yeah,
Without
like shrimp scorpion mix.
Yeah, but like elephant-sized.
I always imagined it to be vaguely shrimp colored, even though it says even though it says they're gray. I always imagined in my head like a cooked shrimp color.
Yeah, whatever. I just
pictured
wanted
them animated. They're like a cartoon.
You keep saying things like that.
So frustrating.
But no, like that's what was great about Fantastic Beasts 1, and we talked about this with Tessa, is adult magic. Watching people who know how to do magic. I want to see adult Quidditch. Yeah. 5 minutes.
I will
5 minutes.
That's the problem with Fantastic Beasts 2 is adult magic. Is that Newt is the only one that says the names of the spells and he mumbles them. So I'm like, Expelliarmus. I'm like, what? Speak up, Eddie. And then everybody else is just casting spells without saying anything. All I know is that the green light means that people are doing things they shouldn't be doing. And I can't figure out what's going on.
When is Avada Kedavra a nonverbal spell?
Yeah, like when did... Because if I recall correctly, Voldemort had to be like...
You were correct about that. Yeah, my assumption was that we just couldn't hear it because they kind of do it like through walls most of the time.
Well, yeah, but then there was the girl at the end that got killed like right in front of us.
Yeah, does he not say anything for that?
I don't think so.
Okay, maybe not.
But
Grindelwald only speaks to persuade.
Pretty much.
Grindelwald doesn't do his own magic because he's the leader, and he doesn't need to do his own magic.
He does the fire. That's pretty good.
Right, but like, he doesn't need to murder people himself. Like he doesn't have to kill the baby. He has people for that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he kills a lot of people with the fire.
He's the more effective leader than Voldemort for that reason. Like
he's definitely more.
He's a better villain.
That is Voldemort's downfall multiple times. Like Grindelwald convinces France to go with him. Voldemort couldn't take over a high school.
Right, yeah. Although he did have a lot of followers anyway.
For sure. But they were followers motivated by pure evil, which is never going to be as good as followers motivated by their own, like, ambitions.
Right.
By love.
Okay.
Yeah, Voldemort's followers were through fear.
Very true. Doesn't work out for most of them.
Especially when you only pull from one Hogwarts house.
Yeah. All Slytherin. Well, and Pettigrew. And Quirrell.
Yeah. Wait, what was Quirrell?
Ravenclaw.
Was he Ravenclaw? Okay. Could never remember. Yeah. He wasn't exactly like a follower, though. He was possessed.
He was like, how was he not a follower?
Master, you are not strong enough.
Let him put him on the back of his head. He was like all in, literally.
He could have been like, yeah, Voldemort, you get left butt cheek.
I don't think that's how
vaguely
that
head shaped.
I've been eating lots of garlic. Oh man. So I feel like the final thing we have to talk about is the ending of Aurelius Dumbledore.
I don't get it.
Oh yeah, no one gets it.
Nobody gets it.
Like, to me, that didn't leave me like, oh my god, I can't wait until
So,
some really interesting explanation
does this
comes
mean-
out. I'm like, I don't get
So,
it.
do you think he's actually a Dumbledore, or do you think that Grindelwald is just doing some complicated stuff to make him think he's a Dumbledore so he can manipulate him? Like, is Kendra Dumbledore like really that terrible that she raised 2 Obscuruses?
So Kendra Dumbledore is dead for sure. Basically, there's a few theories floating around that either Ariana, like when Dumbledore thought she died, maybe she actually survived in the same way Credence sort of survived at the end of the first one. Like, oh, we thought he was dead, but actually he just like.
So do you think that he's Ariana?
Oh yeah, that's the other one. Is that maybe the Obscurus? Like, so it's like her Obscurus, but now it's in this body, so it's like. In a sense, it is her, which makes him Dumbledore's brother, but it isn't her, so... But it's not really his brother, because it's just the Obscurus, so that's why he never mentions it later or something. Because the weird thing is, like, Dumbledore never mentions this to Harry, or it never comes up ever again. So either he never learns about it, or there's like some like, memory charm, something happening to Dumbledore himself to like make him forget this, which that seems stupid.
I would believe that Dumbledore put it on himself.
Maybe.
A memory too tough to live with, that he modified his own memory of the whole Grindelwald fiasco.
But see, he remembers the whole Grindelwald fiasco. He'd just be erasing Credence.
That's what I'm saying. It's just not erase the whole fiasco, but like modify the fiasco in his memory.
Well, now hold on. We get Dumbledore's history from Doge, not Dumbledore, his childhood. So he could know this history without sharing it with the world.
That's fair.
But he talks to Harry about it in King's Cross.
Right, but when has he ever shared the full story with Harry on anything?
Yeah, but they talked to Aberforth about it, and I don't know. It's
the man who had fun with goats.
Exactly.
Maybe Credence was a goat.
Probably not. Yeah, so
the man who runs with
Good
goats.
Lord.
There is some thought that maybe Aberforth could be the father, but that wouldn't. The problem is that Grindelwald uses the word brother, and that's like he calls like all sort of magical followers brother, though. It's like, oh, brothers and sisters, join me. So it's like, does he mean it in that way? Or does he mean like literally your brother?
All I know is if she takes it away that Credence isn't related to Dumbledore, to me that's the same as Luke throwing the lightsaber in episode 8.
Makes this movie, if it's not true, then this movie just sucks, because it's just all a big red herring
farce.
Yeah, it's a big farce. It's just like, well, then this is just stupid. Like that was pointless. So that to me, it's like, and the Phoenix is there. Like the Phoenix shows up. That's supposed to be confirmation. So
wait, no, hold on. What was that?
What?
You were like,
because like Dumbledore earlier in the movie is like, there's a legend in my family that a phoenix will appear to a Dumbledore in need, and then it does appear to Credence. So you're like, well, that must mean it's a Dumbledore. But then it's like,
Credence also has dark hair, like Harry Potter.
I don't think he's related.
Bum,
to
bum,
Harry.
bum.
Credence also has a suspicious amount of 5 o'clock shadow that is like perfectly groomed.
Yeah, well, Ezra Miller is my Patronus, so watch what you say.
Oh boy. Yeah, but then there's the case of how does Grindelwald know his name's Aurelius? Like, there's a bunch of things that need explaining, obviously. But
could Credence be the love child of Grindelwald and Dumbledore?
That is not how that works.
That's not how.
I don't think you know how magic works, because let me tell you something, it's magic.
Nope.
Yeah,
That's not how that works.
no, don't think so.
It's magic.
The fact is, we don't have answers to who Credence is still. Like, we have a name that doesn't make any sense, and only
he's Ray's father.
Right.
I think it's a longer time ago than that.
The galaxy far,
right.
far
We had
away.
to get too
France.
long. Yeah, galaxy far, far away. France.
Yeah. It's a galaxy unto itself. Well, I think I have run out of things to say, you guys.
What did you think of Newt's Patronus?
Yeah, I wasn't in the movie.
Not Patronus. Boggart.
Oh, I mean, I was fine with it.
I thought it was funny. I just want to comment on this. Eddie Redmayne did an interview, and he was like, I think my actual Boggart would be like randomly deep water, but I don't know how you would portray that on screen. And I was like, man, did you watch the movie? Did you not see that?
Well, it's not. It's not deep water. It's like a child drowning in deep water.
In deep water, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it can be done.
Well, it's magic. They can do whatever they want.
Effectively does it anyway. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Ty, you hated. I remember when the trailer came out, and you were like, "This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen." His Patronus is a desk, or is not his Patronus? His Boggart's a desk.
It's the dumbest I've ever seen.
It is not.
It speaks to who he is, Ty.
Yeah, Newt doesn't want.
Yeah, well, when he sits down to talk to the Ministry, that man must be absolutely horrified.
Yeah, I think he seems nervous. This is his 5th time there.
Ugh, glob.
Does Newt know why he's there, or did Theseus just kind of set that up to, like, Shanghai
he knows
him?
he's there to try and, like, get his international travel ban lifted.
Oh, right. But they didn't want him. Yeah, he didn't know. But yeah, you're right. You had to refresh me of that, but I got you.
What? Oh, you guys cut out there for a second, but I think I understood.
Oh yeah, no, I was just saying. Yeah, you reminded me of how that worked. So he did not know.
He's freezing on me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to. I think Ty's gone.
I'm here.
So what's next? Like, what do you guys think is gonna happen in Fantastic Beasts: The Great Depression?
Oh, that's true.
Are they gonna change the title to something more fitting?
I think we're gonna go to Ilvermorny in the next movie, just based on that Nicholas Flamel book. I
would love to see that.
I think Nagini is going to have a much bigger role. We still haven't seen Newts Patronus, so I think we will either see Dementors or Lethifolds, which are, the only 2 things you use them on. I imagine we're going to get to see the actual 3-way duel via some sort of flashback, because eventually we're going to need the history of, like, Ariana and Aurelius and all that.
Yeah, but you got 3 more movies for that.
Oh, I know, but you know the end of the you already know the end of the 5th movie is going to be the big duel.
The battle.
Right. The battle, exactly. So you really only have 2 movies during which you could flash back to the 3-way duel. And it seems like that's such a big, fun duel. Like, man, how can you pass up doing it? So I feel like we'll see it at some point.
From a storytelling perspective, I think the fact that there's been so many flashbacks in this story that's already taken place in the past from the story that we care about. What's that, Jay?
Go.
Sorry, you were coming through in, like, slow motion.
So were you.
Oh,
weird.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I was just saying, I think, like, it's so interesting talking about, like, a story that takes place in the past from the Potter universe and then being like, you know what, let's just flash back from here. I would have rather started with, like, Newt Scamander, Year 1.
Oh, sure.
And then, like, Newt Scamander and the Centaurs being, his first year at Hogwarts.
His first year at Hogwarts, yeah. That'd be interesting. Yeah, but I mean, they did flashbacks in this movie already, so it's not.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I think it's an interesting storytelling decision.
Yeah. Well, even Harry Potter has flashbacks in it to, the times of the Marauders.
Hot Tom.
And Hot Tom.
What a weird scene where they're like chasing Lita Lestrange around the castle.
Yeah.
That whole thing, that was the scene I think out of all of them that weirded me out the most, where they're just like gleefully but angrily just like running around the outside of Hogwarts.
I guess Lita is not really supposed to be a well-liked wizard just in general, it seems like. Someone says what do they say? Something by all wizards or something very negative. I think Grindelwald says it.
Yeah, I don't think they're crazy about the Lestranges.
Guess not. Already have a bad relationship with the wizarding world.
Well, it's going to keep continuing to be bad. I'll tell you that much. They don't exactly end up. And that's why I thought that, like, Lita Lestrange being the love interest in the first place, like, was kind of Lestrange.
I see what you did.
Zing.
Oh, man.
Or Lestrange, as Jim Dale says.
Lestrange, as I always say.
Yeah.
Bellatrix Lestrange.
Yeah. And he gives Bellatrix and Narcissa French accents.
There you go.
Which is just not how that works, but okay.
No, they're just from France historically.
That is not how marriage works. You don't get your husband's accent.
Maybe they lived in France for a while.
Maybe. But anyway, yeah, I had a question. Dang it, it's gone. It evaporated out of my head. Tyler, what do you got?
I don't know. As far as upcoming in the story, I really hope that a lot of these questions are resolved in a satisfying way. They weren't set up in a satisfying way, but I hope that things improve, and maybe a different screenwriter would be a good choice.
Then J.K. Rowling?
Yeah, that's exactly what I think. Yep.
Nope, gotta have J.K.
She can be a part of it. I don't know if she needs to write the screenwriter.
This movie was very dialogue heavy.
Yes.
Maybe she should just write them as books.
Wouldn't that be great? I know she writes good books.
Yeah, right? Let's do that.
I would be all about that.
I would read these books. The problem is the movies have already been made, and now people will be like, well, this isn't like the movie.
Well,
right.
That'd be the sort of the situation. Yeah, it's weird what order they came out. If they did that, I would consider the books a higher level of canon than the movies.
I would too, but there would definitely be differences and obviously more to the book. And there would be that like awkward, because like normally when they make books out of movies, they're terrible.
Normally.
Like when you adapt a book or adapt a movie into a book, it's like you just added a lot of stuff. It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
But yeah, you would definitely have to say that J.K. Rowling's Fantastic Beasts books would be the canon. I don't know.
Right. I
don't know if I want that or don't want that. I can't decide.
It'd probably answer a lot of questions, and I bet the stories would come together in more meaningful ways, but oh well.
I hope that they hurry up with the next one, and that we don't have to wait like another couple years.
2 years? Yeah. I think we do.
Probably. There's no pressure because there's no kids
Star Wars
this time.
Next year, so
we will.
Wait, there's more Star Wars next year? I love Star Wars.
Yeah, it's the small movie called Episode 9 coming out.
Yeah. I've been busy worrying about the Avengers 4 trailer.
That's supposed to come out Friday, right?
Yeah.
Excite!
I'm just not concerned.
Yeah, I think it's going to be good. At this point, it'd be hard to mess up Avengers, but
I don't think it would, actually. I think it'd be very easy to mess up Avengers. I think that there are many endings they could give Avengers 4 that would just be like, that was way too cute, guys.
How many endings? Like 14 million?
You gotta, because you've established consequences.
Like
You've established consequences now. You have to continue with consequences.
You don't think they're going to undo and everyone's going to be fine?
I think that if everyone is fine, I'm not going to enjoy it.
Right. Well, here's what I think: they're going to save most people, and then someone's going to end up dying anyway.
Right.
Someone, Captain America, someone, I don't know who Captain America did.
I just don't think that if it's Captain America, I do not think that Marvel would have allowed him to tweet that.
Captain America dead. That's my prediction.
I think Tony Stark did.
Yeah. I think Tony Stark dead.
Tony Stark. Here's my prediction.
I think Tony Stark retired, but still around for epic cameos all the time.
See, that's how I feel about Cap.
Nope. I feel like it's the exact opposite. I'm on Team Cap.
Team Cap dead. I would love for Cap to be dead. I would love it. Nothing would make me happier. But
I think what's going to happen is they're going to make you fall in love with Catherine Langford, the grown daughter of Tony and Pepper, and then in order to save half the universe, they'll have to sacrifice their life with her.
No. What's going to happen, I think you're right about, I think everyone's going to love Catherine Langford, and I think I think Tony and Steve, or maybe they'll make up beforehand, or maybe like the final thing that really brings Tony back to Steve's side is that Steve will sacrifice his life to save Tony's daughter in like a very obvious, right in front of him sort of way. And then as a result, his daughter will become the next Captain America.
You think Catherine Langford is the next Captain America?
That's right.
I think that the trailer on Friday is going to tell us absolutely nothing.
Nothing at all.
It's going to have scenes that aren't in the movie.
And that's what Infinity War was one of the few times in recent years that I've been satisfied with trailers, because the Infinity War trailer was just pointless.
Like, it's just a bunch of gratuitous action scenes that mean nothing.
That mean nothing.
That aren't even
some
in
of them
the movie.
In the movie. Some of them aren't where you think they're going to
be. They have Hulk transformed at the end, charging into battle. Like, that doesn't happen.
Right, and you have Thanos, like, narrating it with lines he says, like, very early on in the movie.
Yeah. But okay, so I think we need to wrap this up, because now we're just talking about Infinity War.
That's accurate.
And I've got stuff to do.
Fair.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think we can wrap it up.
So where does this rank on your Potter scale as far as movies go?
It loses.
Oh, man.
It loses.
For you, it loses?
I'm
putting it just immediately behind Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
Yeah, which otherwise loses.
Nope, which is currently my favorite Harry Potter movie.
So it's your second favorite Harry Potter movie?
Yeah, I think it's my second favorite. Where it's at.
Have you seen...
I don't actually... I would definitely say...
I've seen it.
I would definitely say that Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is my favorite Harry Potter movie.
Yeah.
I would definitely say that.
I can tell you that for sure.
That might be my favorite Potter movie. This is definitely my least favorite.
Wow, so they fell hard on you, Ty.
I don't know. This is still pretty much better than Chamber of Secrets.
It doesn't have nearly enough Kenneth Branagh.
Oh, yeah, but it has plenty of Johnny Depp.
It doesn't. I would want so much more depth.
It has as much depth as that has Branagh.
No.
I mean,
don't think
Sorcerer's
so.
Stone and Chamber, I felt like were pretty high on my Potter list, though.
I'm just not sold on Chamber of Secrets as a story, as like a book.
Oh yeah.
It's my least favorite book.
Ah, interesting.
By like it's I don't know.
There's a lot of plot convenience at the end with old Foxy there. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, but I mean it's not as
Anyway.
pointless as book 3.
Yeah, that's where it ranks on my Potter movies.
I don't know where I'd put it. Somewhere near the bottom. I think this is not my favorite, but it's no Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. It's not as good as number 1. It's just not. And I'm not saying
give you
you're
that.
saying that. I'm just clarifying that like the first one was better.
This is my feeling walking out of the theater was, it's not, maybe not as good as the first one, but way better than my feeling walking out of most Harry Potter movies. So that's where I'm at. That's how I judge my
Right.
movies, is what was my theater experience like, because there have been some real big, like in recent memory, and The Force Awakens and Infinity War have both just blown me away in like ways that movies have not done in a long time. So. Especially like big blockbustery type movies.
I agree with that. And as a Potter movie, it's not bad, but as like a movie, it doesn't hold up.
Sure.
And that's my kind of issue with it.
I think the bigger a Potter fan you are, the more you'll like the more invested you already are in the wizarding world, the more you'll like this movie, because it's more of a Harry Potter movie than like just like a general moviegoer movie.
Yeah, it's for the fans,
Yeah,
for sure.
it's for the fans.
Right, but so was Infinity War.
And that didn't do well critically.
Yeah, it did.
I felt like 76.
Okay, that's a lot better than 40.
Well, it's a lot better movie.
That's the point. Thank you for reinforcing my point.
But I mean, like, compared to like Winter Soldier.
Okay, so where does this go on our big list?
The bottom.
What's on the bottom right now?
Venom. This is better than Venom.
This is better than Venom.
It's a
I haven't
lot better
seen
than
Venom.
Venom.
I know that. I just know that. I know that as a human on this earth, that this is better
So
than
far,
Venom.
all that's on the list is Venom, Transformers, and then the Toy Story movies in reverse order. That's from the bottom up.
Transformers 1?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Venom. So it's
better than-
Toy Story 3, Toy Story 2, Toy Story 1, Transformers 1, Venom. That's our whole list so far.
As far as I can, I would put it above Transformers as well, but I know a lot of people really like Transformers. It's certainly not worse than Venom.
Ooh, this is
I will go ahead and
we
give
can
you
put it
Toy
above-
Story is a better movie.
Yeah.
Toy Story is better in every way.
The Toy Story movies
it's
are
better than-
delightful.
Yeah, they're
It's
gonna
better
be hard
than
to beat.
Transformers.
Okay, so this is gonna go at 4th place on your current list.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right,
Lucky you.
there you go.
Fair enough.
Cool.
And we need a breakfast food.
Oh man.
Oh gosh, salamanders. You don't eat salamanders for breakfast?
I'm gonna give this my breakfast food for this is going to be, and I'm just saying this, I know you can order this in like the UK, just like a full English breakfast. As an American ordering a full English breakfast, because you're gonna get it and you're gonna be like, yeah, I know what most of this is, and then you're gonna be like, but I'm sorry, are you calling this thing black pudding? I don't. What is some of this? So there you go. I'm calling it a full English breakfast. Where like most of it, yeah, some of it,
What?
huh?
I can
There
get
you go.
behind that.
There you go.
I can be behind that as well.
Cool.
Okay.
That's good.
I'll take it.
Great.
All right.
All right. Well, Jonathan, you can find Jonathan on the Super Carlin Brothers. You can go to youtube.com/Super Carlin Brothers. You'll find
Yeah,
him.
that's me.
They do all sorts of stuff. Super Carlin Gaming, Jonathan Carlin Vlogs. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/ I don't know, probably Bacon and Eggs. If you search it, you'll find it. You can find us on Twitter at Baconandeggs23, on Instagram at Bacon and Eggs Podcast. Ethan is at Wow Now. The O's are zeros. I'm at America Carlin. That's America RLIN. Jonathan is at Jonkerlin. And what is he doing? Does anybody really care?
Oh, throwback.
There it is. There.
That's Jonkerlin, JONKERLIN.
I miss
Yep.
that channel sometimes.
Well, it's still there, Ethan. It's still there.
Yeah, but nothing
you can-
new comes out.
You can learn all about faulty
There's no
thermometers.
Sims in real life, too.
You can just watch me stream The Sims on Twitch.
You can do that.
Yeah.
You can hang out with Jonathan on his Discord server. You can hang out with us on our Discord server. You can find those on our Patreon pages. Links are in the description of this episode wherever you're listening to it. So you can listen to it wherever you want. You know that. You made it to this point. Yeah. Ethan, do you have anything?
I do not.
To say?
I do not.
All
Jay,
right,
any
well,
last
can
thoughts?
You say the last thing? No.
What?
I don't have any
Oh,
last
I asked
thoughts.
Jay if he had any last thoughts.
Oh, no.
Oh.
I have no further thoughts.
Okay, fair enough. Well, then,
Better than Venom.
it's ringing endorsement there. Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald. Better than Venom since 2018. All right, fair enough. Well, thank you for listening to another episode of Bacon and Eggs. I've been Ethan Edgehill. He's been Tyler Carlin, and him over there has been Jonathan Carlin. And until next week, arrivederci.
Abernathy.